the vast silence of the Atlantic Ocean, where the horizon dissolved into endless water and sky. A hidden war began long before the world understood its scale, a war without flags, without witnesses, and without mercy, as steel predators slipped beneath the waves and vanished into darkness, carrying young German sailors who believed they were the chosen hunters of a new age, and among them was Erich Topp, a calm and calculating U-boat commander whose rise mirrored Germany's growing confidence, because after the fall of France and the isolation of Britain, the German Navy realized that starvation, not invasion, would win the war, and so Admiral Karl D. Tilde Pilkronitz unleashed the undersea boat fleet to strangle Britain's lifeline, knowing that every ship sunk meant less food, less fuel, and less hope. And for 2 terrifying years from 1940 to 1942 the Atlantic became a graveyard as U-boats prowled freely at night on the surface, recharging batteries and stalking convoys that could barely defend themselves, while merchant sailors lived in constant fear of sudden explosions and burning oil, never seeing their killer, because early Allied radar was crude and unreliable and aircraft could not patrol far from shore, giving German submarines what they believed was perfect invisibility, reinforced by a device called Metox that warned crews whenever enemy radar was nearby, and this illusion of safety encouraged boldness and arrogance as commanders like Topp perfected wolf-pack tactics that overwhelmed escorts, sank hundreds of ships, and earned them medals and propaganda glory, while inside the submarines life was a nightmare of heat, diesel fumes, sweat, and exhaustion, with men sleeping beside torpedoes and rationing water by the mouthful, yet still believing they were winning the most important battle of the war, because Britain was bleeding faster than it could replace its losses, and Churchill himself admitted that the U-boat threat terrified him more than anything else. Yet even as Germany celebrated its success, a quiet revolution was beginning in secret Allied laboratories, where scientists were no longer trying to build bigger radars but shorter ones, experimenting with centimeter wavelengths and a strange new invention called the cavity magnetron, unaware to the man beneath the waves that the darkness protecting them was about to be stripped away forever, and that the ocean which had hidden them so well was soon going to betray them completely. May 1943 arrived without warning and without mercy, and for the men of the U-boat fleet it felt like the ocean itself had turned against them, because one by one submarines that had once slipped unseen through the Atlantic were suddenly being found, attacked, and destroyed with terrifying precision, as Erich Topp experienced firsthand when he heard an unfamiliar electronic pulse that Metox could not explain, followed moments later by Allied aircraft appearing from empty sky as if summoned by invisible eyes, and this was no coincidence, because the Allies had quietly deployed Centimetric radar operating on a 10-centimeter wavelength that German detectors were physically incapable of sensing, rendering Metox useless and leaving U-boats blind, exposed, and falsely confident as they surfaced at night believing themselves safe, while Allied patrol planes equipped with new radar could now detect the smallest outline of a submarine's conning tower even in total darkness or stormy seas, and the slaughter was immediate and catastrophic, with destroyers and aircraft coordinating attacks that allowed them to track U-boats continuously, denying them the ability to recharge batteries or escape, and in just 1 month 43 German submarines vanished beneath the waves along with thousands of experienced sailors, a loss so severe that it shattered morale and shocked Naval Command, which had no understanding of what had changed, leading to desperate attempts to blame faulty tactics, crew errors, or even the Metox device itself, which was mistakenly removed from submarines under the false belief that it was somehow betraying them, only making the situation worse, because the true enemy was invisible and unknown, a scientific breakthrough so advanced that it had turned the Atlantic into a transparent battlefield, where every movement was tracked and every mistake punished instantly, transforming the U-boat from hunter to hunted almost overnight and marking the moment when Germany began losing a war it no longer understood. By the summer of 1943 the truth was unavoidable even if it was not yet understood, because the U-boat campaign that once threatened to starve Britain into surrender was collapsing at a pace no one had imagined possible, as Allied shipyards outproduced German torpedoes, escort carriers extended air cover across the Atlantic, and centimetric radar combined with sonar, depth charges, and coordinated intelligence to create a deadly net from which submarines could not escape. forcing commanders like Erich Topp to confront the reality that courage and experience meant nothing against technology they could neither see nor counter. And although Germany eventually developed its own centimetric radar detectors, it was too late, because the Allies had already mastered the science of detection, turning the ocean into a hostile environment where submarines could no longer survive long enough to matter, and the loss of thousands of trained crewmen crippled Germany's ability to rebuild its fleet, shifting the balance of the war permanently as supplies flowed safely to Britain and later to Normandy for the invasion of Europe, proving that the most decisive weapon of World War II was not a tank or a bomb but the 10-centimeter radio wave born from scientific innovation, secrecy, and perfect timing, a reminder that wars are not always won by the strongest armies but by those who learn to see first, because when the ocean became transparent, the U-boat menace ended, and with it Germany's last real chance to change the outcome of the war.